All right, welcome to the fourth and final game of the evening. Up this time, it's our review of Trolls vs. Vikings Reborn. Strategy meets mischief. Explore an amazing and lush fantasy world where an epic battle between trolls, Vikings, and Nordic gods rages on. Get ready to don your tactical horns and dive into Trolls vs. Vikings Reborn, where strategy is king, trolls reign supreme, and your sanity is the final boss. I'm gonna oversell it there.
Yeah.
Like, guys, calm down. Okay, what this actually is a tower defense game in, well, very much in the mold of Plants vs. Zombies. Like, this is the most Plants vs. Zombies tower defense game I've played since, well, Plants vs. Zombies, which I've always found to be a bit remarkable. Maybe it's because I don't play too many mobile tower defense games, but
Sweet
you know,
Christ, how is EA not suing?
I mean, it's different enough.
I know, that's kind of the joke.
Right. But, you know, I just always found it weird that for as big and successful and I presume profitable that Plants vs. Zombies has been, you know, there hasn't been like a slew of, you know, X versus X type of tower defense games. At least on PC. Like, you know, PC, I'm still seeing, you know, classic tower defense games of various sorts. You know, Plants vs. Zombies style, you know, it's tower defense in the broadest terminology. Because, you know, you still got the basic principles there, but you're not it's different path finding, because you know all you got is however many straight lines they give you versus the curvature of your normal tower defense games. And you know, this game actually turns that into a bit of a difficulty level, because in the Plants vs. Zombies franchise, you know, you just get the entire space to defend whole way through. On easy mode here, you only have to defend part of the field, whereas you bump up the difficulty, you will have to defend more of the field. I mean, it wasn't a big sweat on my end, but you know, once again, I played Plants vs. Zombies.
Same.
Like, and you know, tell me that this setup that isn't Plants vs. Zombies under a different skin.
Oh, it basically is. Yeah, like,
You know,
uncanny.
yep. So, you might wonder what's the difference. And the answer to that is less interesting gimmicks with the terrain. At least, you know, what I got up to. It was like the first 10 or so missions. Like in Plants vs. Zombies, it'll eventually become night. And, you know, you have to change up your tactics there. You have to put down these mushroom things because there's no sunlight. And sun is the base power, you know, your base currency.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, when you get to the swimming pool levels, and you have to put down lily pads in order to combat the zombie menace. You know, not sure if this game is going to do things like that. Instead, you know, it's got like natural terrain that will block the enemy. You got Viking holes, which will, you know, prop up Vikings much closer to your village. You don't get the protection that Plants vs. Zombies offers you. Like, there's no equivalent to lawnmowers. That might be the most... that's probably the second biggest strategic difference here. Like, once a Viking gets up to the troll line, you're fucked. There's no, thing that'll go across the field if they trigger it. And the biggest difference here is the introduction of magic. Things like your starting 2 spells are being able to drop a rock on an individual Viking, and an AoE spell where you light a whole bunch of Vikings on fire. They do have their cooldown times. I think they can be upgraded. You'll get all their spells. I think there's a slow spell. I think that's ice. Things like that. And all in all, if you played Plants vs. Zombies, you played this game, more or less. Not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying this is fairly derivative material.
Right.
That's a point that can't be avoided. Going back to Plants vs. Zombies, so this might be forgotten about, but the journey that Plants vs. Zombies took was originally a PC game. In fact, it was the first game I ever pre-ordered on Steam. But anyway, it was a PC game first, and then it migrated to mobile devices, and then console devices, and proliferated it everywhere. Whereas Trolls vs. Vikings here has taken the opposite journey, as it got started on mobile devices and has now snaked its way onto Steam. That's the Reborn part. I don't know how old the original game is, because honestly, I never picked it up. But one of the things that they proudly tout, and it's making me raise my eyebrow, overhauled upgrade system. No more pay-to-win nonsense here. You actually put that in your marketing materials. So you're saying your mobile game is pay-to-win.
Unless they're referring to one of the versions of Plants vs. Zombies, because I remember the mobile version is pretty bad with that.
No, it's more the admission that you have pay-to-win in your mobile game. That's the kind of thing that developers and marketing people try to avoid. At least here. In South Asian markets, that's actually a big selling feature. But over here, we don't like the idea of pay to win. Although what pay to win means in this context is a bit different than what the big negative connotation that term brings, and that's multiplayer. There's no multiplayer here. Anyway, but since this is a mobile game being brought to the PC, they took out all the microtransactions because, quite rightly, they realized that kind of system is, doesn't fly on, Steam, because, that's just not how you develop games on the PC space. Most of the time, not unless you're still making it free to play, and they didn't. There's an actual price tag attached to it. I guess to speed up the conversation some, this game is clocking in at $6, which I think is about the perfect amount of money you should be paying for this game. Because it's not as robust as Plants vs. Zombies, but it's not bad. It's got its own flair in terms of like its aesthetics and its storytelling and all that stuff. Like it's a it's a fine second tier Plants vs. Zombies. It's the best way I could sum it up. Petty, what about you? You've been playing the game. Any additional thoughts there?
It's fine. It definitely, like, there's a lot of mobile looking stuff on here.
Yeah, like, as Reborn as this is, it's not getting away from the fact that the platform it was developed for was a mobile devices.
There's a lot of click and scroll, which would have been swipes on the mobile and whatnot.
At least they properly resized the UI elements.
Kind of.
Yeah, as much as they could. Like,
I'm not the best test of this because I'm using a 21:9 monitor as my main display. So there is some weird aspect ratio shenanigans going on here.
What about you, Galax? Anything you want to add to the Trolls versus Vikings conversation?
Not really.
Is that? I mean, this is about a straightforward.
It looks pretty plain.
Yeah. It's it's perfectly cromulent game right here. Anyway, so that'll about do it for not just this review, but this review session. So coming up on the week ahead, as previously mentioned, our Wednesday program is going to be entirely dedicated to all things Nintendo because they had their Nintendo Switch 1 Direct last week, and they're finally unwrapping the larger details on the Nintendo Switch 2 come Wednesday. So we're going to have enough room to talk about all of it. And on Friday, April 4th, we'll be welcoming Jose Donaire of Tetsura Games. They're a Spanish studio located in Spain, and they've had involvement with games such as Star Overdrive, Lisa the Definitive Edition, Kimono Friends, and Horror Tales The Wine. And so look forward to that. We do also have a new episode of MSP planned. Hopefully the guests will remember, when that, what happened last week won't happen this week. So on that note, be sure to tune in next time. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.